heard me speak before, or else this is your first time? Raise your hand. Okay, yeah, that's y'all, okay? You'll get it later, all right? All right, so we're going to have some fun tonight. We'll see how... Ooh, you get that tomorrow, all right? Okay, so welcome, first of all, to the How to Have More Energy workshop. And let me say this, everybody could use more energy. And let me say this importantly, very importantly, energy is really how to have more health. Okay, because if you have less energy, that means you have less health. Because every cell in your body must produce energy in order to do its work. Okay, so for your heart to work, for your liver to work, for your kidneys to work, for your brain to work, okay, it's got to have energy. All right, and we're going to break this down into 4 compartments. I'm going to tell you the 4 places where you lose the most energy. Okay, then I'm going to go over how do we know if those things are working or not. And matter of fact, I got some wonderful gifts for you tonight. I'll go in that in just a second. And then lastly, I'm going to go into the 3 things, okay, 4 things actually. 4, I'm going to give you a bonus. 4 things that you can do immediately to begin to improve your energy. All right? Now, so as far as gifts go, before you leave tonight, and there's a packet up there for you, a little bag. It's got, number 1, it's got a ebook that I wrote about one of the areas that we're going to talk about for energy tonight. There's also a video that my good friend Dr. Thomas Kempinski, you saw him up here, giving on things that it's a different workshop than that one, but it's on how to maximize energy and decrease stress, and it gives you things you can take out and things you can add in, so you're going to get that as a gift. And then there's some samples of some things to help you determine what the underlying cause of it is. Hey, we need the pH strips in there also, okay? So there's going to be pH packets, so you can check your pH if you haven't already done that, because that's one thing that's going to affect energy. It's also going to have some mitochondrial support, some nutritional supplements, some samples in there for you to take. I'll tell you how to do it in a little bit, so you can see if that may be part of why you're not getting as much energy as you want, okay? So, fair enough? All right, let's get started. So the goal tonight is energy, right? And so the opposite of energy would be fatigue, right? A lack of energy. And that would equal sick. That's the key thing. We have to get this concept, okay? Low energy, sick. Let me just give you this as a side note. This is for free, by the way. It's not even, you didn't even have to pay for this, okay? The normal cell operates at minus 25 millivolts to minus 50. Obviously, the more, the better. But this is where you can have function of the cell. Cell goes under this, it gets down to minus 20, and you got a very sick cell, very susceptible to things like cancer and other things that happen, okay? So, we got to keep our cell energy up. All right, and we'll talk about at the end some things we can do about that, all right? So, 4 areas affect our energy main categories. Number 1 is the mitochondria. How many people remember what the mitochondria was called in biology?
Cell splitting.
No, close. Yeah, the powerhouse. It's called the powerhouse, right? So why? Because it's where ATP is made. ATP is your energy source for your cells, okay? So if we have mitochondrial fatigue, we've got sick mitochondria, we've got a sick powerhouse in our cell, we can't make ATP. Cell doesn't have ATP, cell doesn't work well. Okay, so let's talk about some of the things here that affect our mitochondrial health, because this is epidemic, by the way, in America right now because of these things. Number 1, blood sugar. Glucose is needed to make ATP. Okay, so it seems with first reasoning that if you have higher glucose, you got more ATP. Wrong answer. Okay, here's the problem. Cells begin to resist hormones that are too high. So if you have more glucose in your bloodstream, you have more insulin in your bloodstream. Insulin at too high levels is toxic to the cell, because what happens is if there's a lot of insulin out there and the cell just lets the insulin come in normally carrying glucose with it, the cell's going to get too much stimulation, it's going to burn up and die. So the cell sees, hey Ben, there's a lot of glucose out there, there's a lot of insulin, we got to start closing the door. We got to close the receptors and not let it in. So the higher your glucose goes, the less actually gets into the cell, the more stays in the bloodstream. There's things like insulin resistance, metabolic syndromes, of course diabetes. So guess what? You've got now mitochondrial failure because you're not getting glucose into the actual cell to make ATP. Glucose, blood sugar issues, huge. And by the way, hypoglycemia would fit into this as well. Number 2, inflammation. Inflammation is a humongous problem in America. And now, why would you get inflammation? Can anybody guess?
Isn't like your body's fighting against you, right?
Can be. What happens when your body's fighting against you is your body's getting destroyed. Cells are getting injured. They're getting damaged. Okay? So anything that causes cell damage causes inflammation. Because the way God created your body, it's intelligent. And so in order to get damaged tissue healed, the body uses inflammation. And so inflammation means more blood flow, more nutrients to the area to heal it. Okay? That's intelligent. Like if you sprained your ankle, you got a bruise, or you got some kind of infection. But if that's going on every day for a long period of time, that's a major problem, isn't it? Jan, will you check the airs? Make sure the airs are both still on, please. I thought so. I was warming up in here. But y'all be like seeing me doing this. Oh man, he's got a lot of energy. Check the other one as well for me, okay? So the other side of that is a poor diet can also cause inflammation. So some foods are inflammatory. We're going to get to that in a second. Okay? Let's go to the next thing. Okay, cortisol. Cortisol. Where's cortisol from? Yeah, it's a stress hormone. It comes from the adrenal glands. Did you know stress could fatigue your mitochondria and steal your energy? Oh yeah. Oh yeah, it can. Let's see, oxidative stress. Now this is a little bit different than normal emotional stress. It's still a stress to the body, but oxidative stress means that you've got a lot of free radicals. A lot of damaged tissue, a lot of damaged cells in the body that are not getting cleared. Okay, and anytime there's a lot of toxins or damaged tissue in the body, it's going to be robbing energy. All right, let's see. Well, I think I got two more big ones here. Here's one, huge one. Drugs. Drugs are a massive energy stealer. Because they're chemicals, they have to be processed in the liver, they have to be neutralized. Some are worse than others, of course, but all drugs have an effect. And one of the worst ones, ladies, is the birth control pill. Because of the effects it has on your B vitamins, stealing what I'm going to put up here next, stealing your ability to be able to make glutathione. Glutathione is your number one antioxidant. So to be able to fight those free radicals that are formed when a cell gets injured or a toxin comes into your body, you got to have glutathione. And what glutathione does, Karen, basically, it's like Secret Service. It takes the bullet. Okay, it jumps in front and it saves the cell. And it says, hey, I'll take that free radical, and it gives a piece of itself up, neutralizes the free radical, and everybody's happy. And then the glutathione is then reduced to homocysteine, and then it has to be built back up by B vitamins. If you can't do that, you end up with low glutathione, high homocysteine. Homocysteine damages cell walls, and so you end up with atherosclerosis and heart risk, and it also damages nerves as well. So these things are all involved here. Now, before we go any further, you're going to begin to start asking things like, how in the world do I know if that is that part of what's going on with me? Well, I'm going to tell you there are ways you can tell. Okay? For the mitochondria, I'm going to actually give you some supplements, a sample of supplements, 2 of them that are mitochondrial support. I want you to take these in the morning. There's a little capsule. This is full of a special type of niacin, okay? And you're going to take 2 of these capsules on an empty stomach in the morning, and then you can go ahead and, after about 20 minutes, you can go ahead and eat. And you also can have this other supplement which you mix in your water and you drink throughout the first hour or so of the morning. And guess what? If you notice you got better energy, guess what we know? You had a mitochondrial problem, because these are mitochondrial supports. These are things to support your mitochondria. And so if it got better, we know we had a problem with that. Okay? Now, we also know a lot of these things from blood tests. Blood tests are going to be one of the key things here in at least 3 of these areas that we're going to need to look at. Because blood tests tell us, do we have inflammation? What's our blood sugar like? We can run cortisol levels. We can look at oxidative stress. We can look at glutathione through homocysteine. Okay? So, but there's a sample for things for you to look at. Okay, now let's go to this one over here. Let's go to something a little bit different. Another energy stealer is your neurologic function. If you don't have good neurologic function, and I mean your brain, you're not going to have good energy. Yeah, in case you didn't know, the brain runs everything. For you to hear what I'm saying right now is because of your brain. Okay, so for me to speak is because of my brain. To maintain our blood pressure right now is not because of our heart, but because of our brain telling our heart to pump, and how hard to pump, and how often to pump. You know what I'm saying? Everything is controlled ultimately by the brain. So if the brain slows down, so does your energy. So does everything else. Okay? And there's several types of things that can happen here. Okay? So number 1, let's look at the autonomic nervous system, ANS. Autonomic nervous system, you probably can figure from the name, autonomic means automatic. It happens automatically, Eric. You don't have to think about this. This is unconscious, okay? So, there's 2 sides to it. There's a sympathetic and there's a parasympathetic. Y'all probably heard of what's sympathetic for? Y'all remember? Eric? Fight or flight. Emergency situations, right? So, man, I go out here, somebody tries to mug me, okay, man, my sympathetic's going to kick in, my blood pressure's going up, my heart rate's going up, my breathing's going up, man, I've got insulin's going up, cholesterol's going up. Why? Because, man, I've got to fight, flight, and then maybe heal if I get damaged. So all these things are happening intelligently because you got a sympathetic response. Well, I tell you what, I don't want that happen when I'm trying to sit in here and adjust you, because I'm not going to be able to do other things I need to do, like think and remember. That's the problem with ADD, is you got the sympathetic system kicked in, the parasympathetic. You can't learn math, by the way, when you're trying to get away from a saber-toothed tiger. That's really not that important when you're trying to survive, right? So if we get an imbalance of this, it's going to rob our energy, because guess what? All of your energy, instead of going to your brain now, instead of blood flow shunning to the brain, it's shunning to big muscles so you can run, fight, and get away from something. Okay? The other thing that happens is neurotransmitters deficiencies. Neurotransmitters are what take the signal from one neuron to the next neuron. So neurons have what's called a synapse. Okay, so this one has to talk to this one. How are we going to get it there? How are we going to get the signal from here to here? We got this cleft in between. There's neurotransmitters. And this chemical carries the signal and goes, okay, good, we'll send it on. If you don't have neurotransmitters, don't have good communication. Don't have good communication in your brain, you don't have good energy, and you don't have good health. So 4 main neurotransmitters: GABA, serotonin, dopamine, glutamine. Okay? Oh, acetylcholine, 5. We don't talk about glutamine too much, really, because glutamine is so abundant. You don't ever have a problem with that one. But those other 4 you really have issues with. Okay? And they all affect different things. We don't have time to, it's not a brain seminar, we don't have time to go into all that. But I'm just telling you that imbalance can be a problem, and an imbalance from one hemisphere to the other can be a problem. So you got 2 sides to your brain, right? And so if one side gets sluggish, you got an imbalance, the brain's working harder, robs it of energy, can't operate efficiently. By the way, don't forget this. Write this down. This is a take-home message. 30% of all the energy that you produce goes to one organ. Figured it out yet? It's the brain. So guess what, man? Our ability if we don't produce good energy, this guy suffers. He suffers first. Okay? All right. There's a lot more we could say about that, but I just don't have time. Insomnia, by the way, is a huge one over here because insomnia is a brain-based problem. It affects your autonomic nervous system. Lack of movement, lack of activation, not getting enough neurostimulation is a huge problem here. Let's see, I think, decreased frontal lobe function. Huge over here, okay? We got to go to these other ones. Let's get to this one right here. This one here is going to hit some of you pretty well. Poor digestion. You've heard the saying, you are what you eat. You know it's not true, right? You are what you get out of what you eat. Okay? If you can't digest it, it's not going to help you. You got to be able to digest it. Digestion starts all the way up in the mouth. Of course, all the way through, different parts are happening here. So what is some of the problems with digestion? Well, let's go into this right here. Number one, leaky gut. You know what a leaky gut is? A leaky gut is an inflamed gut that's allowing things to get out of the digestive system before it's completely digested and get into the bloodstream, which then causes an inflammatory response, causes an immune reaction, can cause food sensitivities, and can lead to autoimmunities. So leaky gut is a huge problem in America because we got a very high processed diet in America. We eat a lot of processed food. And a lot of processed food, drugs and alcohol and other toxins will cause leaky gut. By the way, what's the other thing, the leading cause of this right here? Drugs. Especially antibiotics and especially non-steroidal anti-inflammatories and steroids. Because they destroy the lining. Well, you think about it, part of this digestion, by the way, the other thing here with poor digestion is decreased probiotics. Well, probiotics are a bacteria. What do antibiotics kill? Bacteria. They don't kill viruses. They kill bacteria. They kill good bacteria or bad bacteria? Yes. They kill both. They're not snipers, okay? They kind of just shotgun the whole thing. They just kill whatever's around, you know. So leaky gut, decreased probiotics, that's huge. So guess what this leads to? Nutritional deficiencies. Well, how are you going to have energy? By the way, mitochondria need certain things. They need zinc, they need magnesium, they need CoQ10, they need some essential fatty acids. They need a lot of different things in order to make that energy in addition to glucose. What if you can't digest well? What if then you start getting deficiency, see? And so now you're like, why am I having this problem? Well, you got maybe a leaky gut, you got low probiotics, or now you've developed a food sensitivity. Now, let me ask you this. What's the most common food to be sensitive to, Angie?
Milk, maybe?
Number two. That's like number 4 or 5.
Nuts, peanut,
Gluten.
gluten.
Wheat. Most common food to be sensitive to. Why? Well, because it's inflammatory to everybody, number 1. Number 2, the wheat has been hybridized in such a way that it already looks kind of suspicious to your immune system. So it's already inflammatory, so if you got an inflamed gut already, it's going to make it worse. It's going to get into the bloodstream, and already your body thinks it looks kind of weird because the old wheat, okay, the ancient wheat, the wheat that they ate in Bible times had 14 chromosomes. The wheat that we have now has 44 chromosomes. It's definitely not exactly the same, you see, and so because of that, the immune system is suspicious. So food sensitivities are big, chronic infections are big. Anytime your digestive system gets weak, you're susceptible to chronic infections. Remember, 70 to 80% of your immune system is in your gut. And remember, your primary protection against invaders are your healthy bacteria. If you kill those guys off, your gut's going to get infections. And guess what? If you got a leaky gut, now bacteria can get out of the gut and into the bloodstream, and now you got infections anywhere. And by the way, these are low grade typically, Sharon, so they hide in different places, and you don't always have symptoms from them. They can embed into tissue, and then the immune system tries to get in there and kill them, and it damages tissue, and then we got even more inflammation again. So it basically becomes a really bad, if you got poor digestion, I mean, it's going to be a snowball. It's just going to affect everything from there, okay? Fatty acid deficiencies are going to be critical because fats are harder to digest, and a lot of people don't have good gallbladder function because they've eaten so much junk over their lifetime, and the gallbladder's sluggish. Sometimes the gallbladder's sluggish because of this next reason, and that is thyroid and adrenal problems. So did you know that you have to have good thyroid function in order to get a good gallbladder contraction? Gallbladder and thyroid are tied together. Did you know thyroid is tied to cholesterol? Cholesterol problems a lot of times are because of thyroid problems. Did you know that every cell in your body has a thyroid receptor? And do you know what thyroid hormone's responsibility and job is? Is to get into that cell, into the nucleus of the cell, into the brain of the cell, and to turn it on. It's like the spark plug. It's like the fuel. It basically raises your metabolism of the cell. So if there's not thyroid getting in there, how is that cell going to fire up and have energy and do its job? It's not going to be able to. So thyroid is huge. And the reasons that we have problems with thyroid and adrenal, and these two almost always go together, the reason we have problems with them, number one, 90%, at least 80% of all the thyroid problems in America are autoimmune. Hashimoto's. There's like, I forget how many, like an extra 10 million cases every year reported. By the way, most doctors aren't even testing for it. So we know there's at least like 30 million cases, maybe 50, that are known. A lot more that are not. So in addition to this, we can also have liver problems that affect thyroid because 60% of your thyroid hormone is converted from T4 to T3, which is the active form in the liver. So if your liver slows down, then your thyroid function slows down, your metabolism slows down, everything slows down, then the brain slows down. So thyroid, adrenal. The adrenals are under a lot of stress but just because of our lifestyle, because of food, because of inflammation, because of blood sugar. Blood sugar and inflammation are the two biggest stressors on your adrenals, more than emotional stress. But emotional stress, of course, is there. Busy lifestyles, not getting proper sleep, bad diets, all fall heavy on that right there. Okay? All right. There's your big four. Now, what are we going to do about it? Let's talk about this. Let's talk about 4 ways that we can increase our energy, guys. All right? Let me finish this thought, though. Okay, we had talked about how do we know if we got bad thyroid function? Well, number one, if I'm looking at a patient, and if you say, you ask me, hey, I'm worried about my husband, I'm worried about my wife, worried about my son, worried about my dad, how do you think their health is? I'll say, tell me about their lifestyle. Tell me about what they do, what they eat. How do they, all of these things. You start telling me that, I can start telling you where the problems are, or where they might be, or where they probably are. So one thing that's critical in beginning to figure out where our energy went wrong, first of all, is just getting a good thorough history, okay, and understanding what's been going on with this person. This person's been under a tremendous amount of emotional stress for the past number of years. Hey, guess what? Their cortisol levels are probably high, their adrenals are probably are exhausted, their mitochondria is tanking, and they probably got poor thyroid function by now. So because those run together. If you tell me, hey, this person here eats a completely processed diet, I'm going to say, man, their digestion is shot. We're going to have to improve their gut function. We're going to have to see if they got food sensitivities. We're going to have to check for infections. We're going to have to do some things there, okay? Anyway, history is critical to finding out where our problem is. And number 2, I've already said, is the blood work. The blood work is really critical because it can tell you all of these different things. And then number 3 is the neurologic exam. So if you come into me and you're fatigued, and we start doing your neurologic exam, and we start seeing a lot of cerebellum problems, you have trouble with finger to nose, you got trouble with eye movement, your balance is not great, your cerebellum is your most metabolically demanding part of your whole body. So I'm telling you, hey, you're not getting energy. You're struggling for energy. And then the last way is by sometimes then testing certain things like we're going to do with these nutrients to see if you respond. So there's ways you can find out what the problem is. And then there's always solutions. I'm going to give you some simple things that everybody can do right here to improve their energy. So I'm going to give you 4. Okay, number 1, believe it or not, this is really deep, Thomas. You're going to like this. You ready? H2O. This is not a 4-letter word. It's not a bad thing, okay? Your body is obviously the most common thing in your body is water, okay? You need to be replenishing and getting lots of good water into it. And let me say, water's not soda, water's not tea, and water's not Kool-Aid, okay? Because what's the problem with those? Well, a soda, okay, for instance, with the caffeine and the sugar and the chemicals that are in there, if you had a soda, that didn't count as water. That just means you need about 12 additional glasses of water to neutralize the acidity, the sugar, and the caffeine that's going to cause you to urinate out more water. So you just got to add about 12 more glasses, about 12 8-ounce glasses to equal what you just took in just to get back to even. You see? So we need to be drinking water. Okay? And I recommend you get in the habit of start drinking more water, number 1. Number 2, of course, diet's going to be critical, right? Start practicing some of the principles of the innate diet. This innate diet means, number 1, if we get more real living food into our body. Food by God, not food by man. By the way, God's food doesn't have labels on it. Okay, I just wanted you to know that, all right? If man's got to put the labels on it, they put a lot more stuff on it too, okay? Typically, the more pure you get your food, the better. And honestly, in the richest nation in the world, that's beginning to be a problem here in our country, to just get real, plain, good food. And it's because, even the produce that we get, is picked early and it's been shipped and sprayed so it looks pretty and whatever else, you know what I'm saying? It's just a big challenge, but this is key. You got to get in nutrients, you got to get in fiber, you got to get, out of raw vegetables and steamed vegetables and fruits and things like that, you get not just the nutrients, not just the calories and the good glucose that you can use, but you get fiber, you get water out of those things too. Number 3. It needs fuel. And it needs activation. So guess what? If you get more exercise, you're going to get more energy. But let me give you the requirement here. Don't go out and start CrossFitting if you haven't been even walking. Okay? Don't be foolish. Here's what'll happen. If you don't have good mitochondrial function, you go out and man, you just really want to get this thing rolling, and you hit it pretty hard, and then the next day or maybe the day after, bam. You can't get out of bed. You can't think. You know why? Because you exhausted all the energy you had, and your mitochondria didn't have the ability to replace it and make more ATP. And now your body says, we're going to take a break. We're not going today. And so you can't overdo it, because that really sets you back. Okay, so you have to ramp it up. And this is my rule for exercise. Number 1, start. Number 2, progress. If your start is walking to the mailbox, Tammy, okay, good, walk to the mailbox tonight, and then tomorrow walk to the mailbox and to the next driveway or something, okay? Just add a little bit onto it. It don't matter. Just progress. Start and progress. That's exercise. Now, the 4th thing, what can you do if there was... Remember how I started off with the millivolt thing? So, what helps us charge our cells? Well, lots of H2O. Okay, because you have that interstitial fluid in between the cells, because energy doesn't just travel through nerves, it travels from cell to cell. You got to have lots of good electrons. Okay, so you put 2 wires in just plain water, just H2O without the electrons in it, you don't get any conduction, right? But you throw some salt in there, now you got some minerals out of the salt. These ions are carrying energy, and you can get a travel, you can get electricity across there, right? So these are all important. Get your nutrients in, get your water in, get some stimulation. But let me tell you something you probably didn't think about. Did you know the earth is helping you keep your energy up? How's it doing that? Well, the Earth has an electromagnetic field. Isn't that right, Thomas?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Geologist right here. He's telling me that the other day. I said, that's cool. I didn't think about that. These guys learned how to find oil by looking at the electromagnetic field of the Earth. Okay? And he was like, yeah, they're pretty low frequency. I said, yeah, but everything else around us is not. So we got microwave from the high lines. We've got from our microwaves in our house. We got cell phones. We got wireless stuff going on everywhere. These waves here, your cells don't like. They're on a different frequency than what your cells are. Your cells are on a 0 to 30 frequency. Your brain waves, when we check brain waves in here in our neurofeedback room, we do a brain map. It's the brain waves are between 0 and 1 and 30 hertz. Okay, that's what the Earth mainly is. Right, Thomas? You rarely find something, would you tell me, like in 40s or something like that? Yeah. So the average is usually, you know, honestly, in most places, it's just around less than 10. So, excuse me. So the getting out in the Earth is a good thing, okay? But what's the problem? Well, number one, we live indoors. We live on concrete. We wear rubber shoes. Okay, these are insulators. These don't conduct well. And so we don't get it. We're losing some of that. Plus we got all this scatter. So this is where PMF air that you see right over there. Some of you are doing that. So what's it doing? Well, it's providing an electromagnetic field to bring the energy of your cell up. We said your cell's got to have this millivolt, they got to have this energy. This is recharging the cell. Okay? Now, normally, if you were in contact with the Earth all the time and you had these other things going on, your cells would stay charged up. But what if we don't have these, and what if we're not connected to the Earth that much, which we're not, unfortunately, and we got all this other scatter fields going on, we need to rebuild this. Okay? So PMF is critical to restoring energy to the cell. All right, and so here's what I'm going to do tonight. I told you I had some special gifts for you. All right, for everybody that's here, or some of you aren't. Okay, number one is that and if I haven't done this with you already, okay, functional neurologic exam I've probably done on everybody that's my patient. I may have seen blood work, but if I haven't and you have blood work that's within the 6 month on this, I will do this at no additional charge, okay? And then I'm going to give you 2 free visits, okay? The first visit, I'm going to do the exam. Second visit, in between the first and second visit, I'm going to do this. I'm going to review your blood work, no additional charge. I'm going to look at your neuro exam. And then I'm going to give you 2 free treatments on the PMF machine as a gift, okay? And then I'll sit down and look at it. You've had your test here. Say, hey, what does your mitochondria look like? Let me hear about your lifestyle. Let me look at your neuro exam. Let me go over your blood work. And then I can tell you, okay, hey, we look pretty good, but we need to work on this. Or, you know what, we got a lot of work to do. Or whatever, all right? So, energy eval includes 2 treatments on the PMF. Includes the exam, the blood review, report of findings. For you guys, $35. You got to schedule it, and I'm going to tell you right now, I'm probably scheduling it in August, but I'll make time. I might be able to fit in a couple of them between now and then, but nonetheless, I recommend you do this. Get on the machine, experience the machine. And it's really exciting. I mean, this is something that can make a big difference for you, okay? You produce more energy, you got better health, period, bottom line, all right? So, God bless you. Thank you for being here. You got something you can take home. You got some fun stuff to go home with you. And now, sign up for the free energy exam in eval if you haven't already done it. And then I'll answer any questions that you have here for a few minutes also, okay? Thank you. Turn it up.